Hello, hello, and welcome to our 7th episode of the GAMbIT magazine, RuPaul's Drag Race. Oh, can I start that again? I
Yeah, sure. No, it's fine. Hold on.
All right, wait. My old cow.
I'm going to count you down. All right.
Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of the GAMbIT magazine, RuPaul's Drag Race podcast. We are the Shady ladies here for our 7th episode with the dear and lovely, luscious Margot Poupard.
Well, hello. I feel like that was a little misleading, but since this is all recorded podcast, you can't see me, then I'll let you imagine I'm luscious.
She is luscious.
With my comedy.
Her intellect, definitely.
Aw, thanks. Samir, you flatter me too much.
Oh, I try. But this was, another intense week. I was like, Ru, like, I know I was shocked when I found out that Ru was, like, in his 50s, but the, like, lack of patience with youthful stupidity, is at an all-time low this week. Like, we thought we heard all when he screamed at them.
Since McBitch... Well, Shakespeare, but I'm just going to call the episode McBitch from now on, because it's my favorite title still, and I'm dying to figure out a way to, like, do something else with it. Ever since McBitch, I feel like Ru has not been suffering fools quietly whatsoever. She's just fucking had it, and I think that she's just been at the edge of her patience since that episode. And that was 3 episodes ago, but it feels like a very long time. Like, in the Untucked episode, when Jaden was talking about, like, I don't know what day, week, hour, I have no idea what's happening. Like, I feel kind of almost, every time I watch that show, a little bit of that kind of same daze that they must feel, just because it's so rapidly paced. But, I mean, the excuses are coming fast and furious, and Ru does not have any fucking patience left over for it. But, to add to your comment about recently finding out Ru's in his 50s, she looked fucking fantastic at the judging, like the best she's ever looked, which I know, I mean, she always looks great week to week, but there was some, like, everything from head to toe.
Something a little extra in every single detail of the look.
I loved, like, the
judging.
Headpiece, I loved the dress, I thought the color looked amazing on her skin, the hair, the makeup, everything was on point. I was just like, oh my god, I just want to still,
like, instantly blown away.
Oh my
god. Like, the more you saw it, like, you couldn't, like, you know, I understand when other people's like, I'm looking for a flaw and I can't find one. Like, that was sheer perfection.
That was, like, old school glamour. She was just serving it. She looked so fucking good. It was incredible.
I was jealous.
Very. Anyway, I digress. But I was just trying to, I wanted to bring that up because I seriously cannot get over how good she looked. Like, I just loved that look so much.
There was a lot of amazing highs and
lows
in this episode.
It's that effortless glamour that everybody wants to have that somehow Ru's achieved, like, in this look.
Yeah, every single episode turns it, but this was, like, seriously, like you said, like, the cream of the
I felt like it was the finale for a second. I was like, wait, what's happening? Is it over?
Like, damn, you like,
all
you
you
must have
bitches going
amazing
home
coming up if you busted that out this week. Like,
no, I just got very tired of everyone's excuses, so I wanted to show you what no excuses looks like.
Yes.
Drink it in.
I don't need excuses. I am RuPaul.
Exactly.
That's pretty much what it was.
I mean, yeah, without having to say it, which is kind of like
better
writing than the subtlety of Mad Men.
True. It was nice to see another mini challenge this week.
I liked the mini challenge this week too. I thought it was really fun.
Had just literally been talking about, like, the newest Bjork album's cover. Like, when is a queen gonna, like, do something on that? Is anyone gonna do anything with that? Like, we don't know. And then as we watched this episode, it was like, oh, they still brought up Bjork because one of the dresses, the celebrity dresses, they had to remake in paper. I guess it was inspired by another artist who had done this, like, recreating these famous looks completely out of paper. So that was their challenge. They each had to. They didn't even get to team themselves up, did they? It was another thing, like, wherever you're standing, wherever you're next to, these are your teams.
Exactly.
And make it work. And they each had to have a different look. Like, one was the J-Lo, like, plunging. Yeah,
they didn't have to pick their celebrity red carpet moment or memorable red carpet moment or their teammate.
It was handed to them.
Yeah. The team pairing, I don't know if all of them felt like it was handed to them. I feel like some people were like, if I wasn't standing next to this person, I wouldn't have picked them if my life depended on it. But I think that having them just be paired up with someone that they wouldn't have picked kind of provides for interesting results regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But when RuPaul did say, you have to like recreate this look out of paper and it has to be a memorable red carpet look, I was like, oh my God, like who are you even gonna pick? So I actually breathed a sigh of relief for them.
Well, it was like,
when
these
she was
are
like,
the ones you do.
Yeah, and also because the pit crew showed up at that moment. So I was like, oh, what were we talking about? Wait, oh, okay, oh, everything turned out good. All right, sweet.
Everything's great.
I'll check back in later.
Where's the redhead?
He was in the audience during the Despies.
He was in the. They're there for everything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you need, like a hulking pair of muscles for, or like some hot body for,
or a very tight shot of some just in case underwear.
Yeah, so you can see just how well they feature a man's package.
Yes.
Especially if they're working with a lot to begin with.
Yes.
It's always a pleasant sight.
Things.
Always love it when the pit crew is there for any reason whatsoever. They don't even have to give me a good reason. I just want any reason you can come up with.
I don't need a reason. I just expect them there, honestly. If they're not there, I'm upset. I will
know.
riot.
Where
in
are
the streets.
They? So, of course, that means we got to see them again for the mini challenge. And I guess it was, like, not just the creation of the dress that was being judged, but also, like, the presentation of it. So Katya and Mrs. Kasha Davis, who were randomly paired up at that point, like, they all stayed in those teams throughout the episode for the next challenge. Like, they worked together, like, seemed really well. So I guess everybody was expecting that they would, like, totally knock it out of the park when they got to the final challenge.
Well, I think it was Jaden who said it in the Untucked episode that we watched later, how she definitely thought that that's it, that's who's going to win, that's all there is to it. Like, Kasha and Katya are really funny, like, they're going to make a great pair. And especially since Kasha Davis did a whole, like, Joan Rivers thing and was kind of, like, heckling her from, the carpet, it really kind of included the two of them instead of everybody else was just like, oh, this one person's just going to get all made up and I'm just going to watch them walk down the carpet and just be pleased with the outcome. I thought that was a really smart way that both of them had something to do and both of them could kind of, like, show their comedic chops. And I actually thought, like, oh, wow, I can't believe these two haven't really, like, paired up together yet because it's, like, old school funny queen, semi-new school funny queen. Like, maybe they'll bring out the best in each other. And so I was really kind of bummed out that it didn't really pan out that way.
Yeah, it seemed like.
And then
Mrs.
I thought
Kasha
it was kind
Davis
of unfair
wasn't
that
all there.
Kasha Davis said that, like, Katya gave herself the best lines. I didn't really think that was a fair critique of her to make in the Untucked episode.
Well, Katya wrote most of it. I'm like, well, why didn't you write more of it?
Exactly, or at least rewrite what she wrote for you in your language, like things that'll make you look funny. Like, even if you can't come up with anything, at least try to put your personal spin on it. She has a personality. It's not like she didn't have material to draw from.
Yeah, and for some reason she seemed very stuck in, like, the old school, whatever it was that she was calling it, because it was like, oh, I'm teaching this youngster, and, like, Katya was like, I'm not that young. I'm just ignorant.
Which I thought was funny.
But, like, yeah, I'm like, I feel like Katya understands some of these references you're making, even though she probably grew up in a Russian household. You know, maybe she didn't get them as much as you wanted.
So maybe the American pop culture reference is a little off. But then you should be able, if you're doing comedy, there's comedy in that. Like, you should be able to recognize that. Like, maybe make fun of the fact that she is, like, Russian and can speak perfect Russian, but you would never guess it by yourself. You just think that she's, like, a queen that maybe is, like, a Russianophile. What's the... I don't know anybody that really loves Ruski-phile, whatever. You would just guess that she's that instead of, like, she is from Russia. And I think there's a lot of comedy to play in there, especially with Mrs. Kasha Davis's over the top, like, Eugene Merman voice.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of comedy that they could have mined there if she, like you said, wasn't so stuck in, like, oh, I've got to, like, teach her. It's like, no, just try and find, like, the commonalities, like, find the overlapping part in the Venn circle or whatever.
Yeah, the Venn diagram.
Venn diagram, overlapping circles. Find, like, the commonalities.
Find the purple and the blue and red.
Yeah.
You know, like, it could be done by maybe... it just didn't work out. Like, but it really was more like.
But
Kasha...
I think that also kind of comes from the mentality of, like, kind of doing the old queens versus new queens kind of thing, where you're like, oh, well, you know, these new queens don't know anything. If, like, when you come from it from that standpoint, then I think you're just already shooting yourself.
You're setting yourself up, like, with a wall between you and, like, anything else that could come in, like, make you, what you're going to be delivering a little more inventive and a little more, not just modern, but, like, you know, it just needed to be funnier. It just wasn't that funny. And
it felt like a first draft of a joke, and that's fine. That's how jokes get funnier. That's why people bounce ideas off
That's why
of each
they
other.
all went in to talk to Kathy Griffin I feel like there was probably a lot more. Obviously,
That
we
we
know that
didn't
there was a
see.
lot more that we didn't see. And I actually saw Katya perform live right after this episode aired. She was doing a club appearance in San Francisco, and she was even saying, like, I'm surprised at how much got cut out. It may have seemed almost like as you watch the episode that maybe Katya didn't have as many laugh lines as we thought because we only didn't get to hear a whole lot, but we heard a few really good ones. And she's like, there was actually a lot more, and I said a bunch of other things, so it's kind of sad to see a lot of those things didn't make the cut when they edited the show together, but there was, so much more, obviously, than what we saw. So I thought, after having heard that and seen the episode, I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's why it was obvious that Katya was the stronger of the two, because everyone else there saw everything and heard everything, and okay, well, Katya was clearly on point the whole time, and it leads me to believe that the editing of the episode at least was truthful to the general level of quality in each of their performances, because nobody was disagreeing with the criticism that Katya Davis kind of was like a little blah.
Yeah, that her jokes weren't quite landing all the way or didn't have quite the button that all of Katya's jokes had on all of hers. So that was... that's probably like a blow a little bit, since she kind of considers herself to be more on the comedic side than anything else. And to watch, someone like Miss Fame, who doesn't really consider herself like a comedy queen, actually come away with some pretty funny lines. I thought her acceptance speech was hilarious.
It was hilarious. I was really surprised by that. I'm like, damn. Is that improv? Did you write that before? Because they didn't know who was winning what.
Yeah,
so she pulled that out.
I feel like what
she
to just get off track just slightly, I think what Miss Fame improv was way funnier than what they ended up having written. Mm-hmm. Only because I feel like in a lot of situations when you're writing stuff, you kind of have to hear it out loud a lot before you can kind of find your groove, and maybe that just was kind of underwritten. And by the time she found her groove, she was just accepting her award, and that's just kind of how the timing worked out, and that's when her funniest material kind of sprouted up, because she didn't feel the pressure of I have to be so funny. She just kind of let it go.
She was able to just be herself.
Yeah, and I just thought that was probably one of the funnier acceptance speeches, obviously next to Katya's. And I was bummed that Katya's jokes during their presentation didn't get as many laugh out louds as it should have, I thought, just because I thought it was a lot funnier.
Yeah.
Than most people.
Ru got it all, it seems.
Yeah, but it's also when you hear the audience, you hear crickets from the audience sessionally, and she's saying the joke, and you're just but it's funny. Why is no one else laughing?
I know, it's it's been a bit of a Twilight Zone this season. It's been so drastically up and down, with certain performers, Kennedy being bottom two. Then the week after, she's the winner, and then this week, or this last week, we had Pearl on the bottom. And then the shock elimination of Trixie. And then this week was, the epic, most intense moment between Ru and another contestant, I think, on the show. I think it is easily probably the equal, if not better, than when, he blew up at Tammy Brown. But he actually did cuss at Tammy Brown, so that's still, hard to top. But this was, it was so, I couldn't believe, every step of it. You felt I could feel the heart beating in my chest. It was that.
It's like watching
intense.
A parent discipline a child at a grocery store, and you're I don't need to see this.
It was
I'm sure you have your reasons, and you have yours, and I don't want to know either of these. I just want everyone to love each other and skip off and pick a cereal. I don't give a shit. Everyone be friends. And when she just when Pearl just kept going though, and
oh my god, you couldn't just let the last word be someone else's. You were so it was so oh, please don't try to have the last word, please don't. And then she said something, and what she said was just so.
It was the equivalent of thing. You're just like your father. It was just too much. You were just and you took it there,
on my face?
And you took it there,
oh,
and it's
no.
And her tone of voice is so monotone that it's it doesn't sound friendly or unfriendly. It's just, and the roboticness of it just somehow makes everything
feel resting
worse.
Bitch voice. If there's a vocal version of resting bitch face,
I think you just coined the phrase resting bitch voice.
That's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, it is.
And it can obscure what's really going on beneath, because she disappeared.
I couldn't believe that. That was super weird. But then again, what we saw from Untucked last week, she just bailed.
Yeah.
She just had to go. And then
it was such a crazy moment. The camera literally just held on her face for a pretty long time, longer than they usually do on the show, because it was just I feel like everybody's like, I want to try to burrow into your head right now to see what you're thinking after that moment. When, like, Rue was
It's
just like,
that
I am
moment
not
where, like,
having
you knock
it.
something over at a restaurant and everyone is looking at you, and you're just like, I just want this to be done. And then you just want, then your human instinct is to go hide.
Yeah, and so that's exactly what Pearl did. Pearl, like, went and hid, and then Max was just left there, like, trying to be, like, super supportive, and Pearl was just clearly so in the midst of, like, even though she doesn't express it outwardly. That's the thing that's so confusing, is that, like, you don't see the outward expression of it. So when her actual behavior tells us that she's this upset, when her actual behavior tells us that she's this upset, like when she got up and walked out, it's a complete shock because the face is not registering how intense that emotion is for her. So suddenly she would just look kind of lost for a second, but she didn't look like super angry or super upset, but seriously confused. And then boom, up, walked out, and didn't say, like, Max is like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just keep writing. And, like, that was right after. He was like, this is very uncomfortable for me right now.
Oh my God,
because I'm just sitting
Max
here
was
right
the
in
audience.
between. It was like being there when, like, dragons are breathing fire, like, at each other.
I hate it when Mom and Dad fight.
Yeah, it was a scary moment for all of us. We were totally with Max in that moment. And then for, I guess, Pearl and Untucked said it was longer than an hour. So I was probably gone even longer than an hour. But somehow she came back. I don't know how much of the writing was done by Max, how much of it was done by Pearl, how much rehearsal
luckily the funniest line seemed to be written by Pearl. The Gatorland dig at Ginger Minge seemed to be written by Pearl.
Yeah, because afterwards she was like, well, she's always talking about Gatorland. I'm like, well, when are we going to make this happen? Like, I guess maybe they're planning a trip to Gatorland together, which I would love to see filmed by RuPaul's, like, show. Like, they need to, like, follow them if they go to Gatorland together.
Fun. Just give them some GoPros and stick them on their heads. There you go. I solved your production issue.
Very good, very good. Now we just gotta make sure they follow it.
But like you said, like, Pearl gets so quiet and so withdrawn. It is hard to tell what emotion she is going through. Like, if it's rage, if she's really just sad. And I think, if anything, though, luckily Max was her partner, because I think if there's anybody that's going to be supportive of you and the most understanding about your feelings and taking your time and not give you shit about taking your time, like, disappearing for an hour and leaving you with a bulk of the work or whatever, it's gonna be Max. Because we already saw her support Jaden when she had a mini freak out when they were doing Shakespeare, and she really calmed her down and helped her out. So if there was anybody that was gonna coax Pearl out of her shitty shell, it was going to be Max, and I think it worked out fine.
I mean, they actually were really funny.
They were. But I will say this, I did notice Max wore a gray wig to the Despies, and I was like, bitch, come on.
Come on, they asked you not to do that. But
when she did her Cher paper mache outfit during the paper doll challenge, all I could hear was Violet in my head saying, Max just looks like Max.
And that's all I heard. That's all I heard. It changes everything, but I don't know, like, I'm still waiting for the episode when she's in the white dress. I think it was blonde hair and the little heart in the box. Like, we'll find out. We'll get a longer view of her in a different look. Hopefully soon. I hope. But, yeah, it was, I wasn't totally mad at that win. I wasn't, like, really upset about it. I was kind of, like, a little surprised. I'm like, oh, but because it felt like, oh, because Pearl's on the bottom last week, and then there was that epic throwdown, and then it's like, but then they won, and she was like, thank you for laying the smack down on me. Like, I needed that. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Like, she really turned it around, and I think that contributed a lot to them winning as well, as that Pearl was able to rise above that, and actually, she did allow that fire to be lit under her by Rue's.
I mean, I agree. The win wasn't as much of a what, like Kennedy's win last week, where I was like, she was good, she wasn't that good.
Yeah.
But in terms of, like, whole package, like, they made the audience laugh. What they actually delivered was very funny. And Pearl really, you could see, put forth a huge effort to put her personality out there, and it really boosted her up. It really made her an equal contender, and it stopped. And I think also all of the shady remarks about how her personality is really flat, I think also kind of tipped it the other way in her favor of, like, yes, you guys should win, because she was not acting that way that night, so it didn't really feel, not necessarily appropriate, but at a certain point it was like, all right, we heard that one already. Is that the only one you guys got? And I guess it is, because it's all that she's shown. So, just to be playing devil's advocate a little bit. But I thought overall Max's and Pearl's banter on stage and their presentation kind of just landed the best as an overall package. So it didn't feel as much as a woo win to me. I was like, okay, it just I will never feel 100. I'll never get 100% on board of like the turnaround arc that they keep trying to repeat. I don't know why. Something about it is always like, all right, okay, you did it. Everyone proud of themselves.
Yes.
Let's stop. But it just so happened that it was a little bit more justified than last week,
and the bottom two also.
And Pearl was fabulous. I loved her dress.
She did. Like, it's an interesting thing that I've noticed, you know, because usually there's like this sort of debate between like the queens who use a breastplate or the queens who just like pad and use bras. And this season, the younger queens, they're not using breastplates. They're like contouring them on. So I'm like, they're padding and adding contours. So and contouring the body paint as well to accentuate it. So I'm like, that's an interesting shift in the culture that like it's gone away from more of the breastplates and more towards makeup artistry as creating the illusion. But the bottom two, like, I felt like it could have been controversial, but when I kind of added up everything, I felt it was still kind of justified because I can't even remember if Kasha was a winner of any award and thus gave any kind of acceptance speech.
I don't think
because
so.
Because nothing's sticking in my mind. Nothing of what she said in her presentation stuck in my mind.
But also, to be fair, she shouldn't have counted on that anyway. You need to make what you know you're going to be doing count.
Yeah, and with Miss Fame and Violet, like, they were probably, like, the worst team.
I had to agree. I forgot who said it in Untucked, but someone said that it read like Mean Girls in the lunchroom, just making fun of everybody and making snarky remarks. And that was 100% my gut feeling, too. As soon as I saw it, I was like, come on, you guys are actually funnier than you think you are.
Like, you're not doing it justice here.
And I think they just went the easy way when what they felt comfortable doing. But luckily, they did have some well-written or better-written jokes that were more memorable than anything that Kasha said.
Well, like, they also each had an acceptance speech.
And they were both great.
Was hilarious. Like, Violet's, like, totally played off of her persona, or at least the perceptions of her.
And I like that she took Rue's little piece of advice that she gave her earlier about the Sally Fields, you guys like me, you really like me, and you guys really don't like me, because she won Shady as queen. I thought that was really smart, because that showed that, like, she's
listening. And not in, like, a sycophantic way where you're just, like...
No. Like, I took your feedback, and just because it didn't make it into the banter, it's not that I wasn't listening. I listened. Yeah, here it is.
It wasn't she's not an apple polisher, that's for sure.
No, not by any means.
So that was... It felt like they kind of earned their way out of being in the bottom two because of that, and I didn't feel like Kasha had done enough to stand out in any way in any part of it.
Like I said, with Miss Fame and Violet, I feel like they just hit their stride and became comfortable a little later in the game, and that's why it showed in their acceptance speech. And also kind of like their body language during their banter was kind of funny, and they were like a little bit more physical comedy-wise. Like, Miss Fame got in on, like, the counting of the ways of, like, how Pearl is boring, even though that was kind of mean. But still, like, they kind of got into it, and I think that showed and saved them in the end and didn't really, like, end up pushing them all the way towards, like, not as great a showing as others.
Mm-hmm. So I felt they actually got that right, and despite having so many shocks, I do feel that the editing was meant to be manipulative again, but we're kind of wise to it, so, like, I didn't really... by the, like, everybody looked terrible when they were dancing with Kathy Griffin. So, what is the result going to be? You know, like, it was genuinely a surprise because, with Pearl and Max, because Pearl was gone for most of it.
Right.
So that really
you weren't sure how it was going to come together.
Like, we didn't, we assumed that they obviously had less time than everyone else to work on things together because Pearl was gone for so much of the time. So, it was genuinely a surprise when it turned out to be so good. We had legitimate reason to be surprised by that. The rest of it, I felt like it was just like, we're just not going to show you parts of them doing really well. We're going to only show you the part where they get criticized. And then everything will be a surprise when we get to the actual challenge. I'm like, well, most of them you could kind of tell. Like, you obviously knew Ginger Minj was not going to fail at anything comedy related.
No.
You just, somehow, she already came in, like, clearly confident in who she was and what she wanted to deliver, and she's doing that. So there was no question of that, even if Kathy Griffin was very cutting to her. I mean, but she even got a great line out of that. She's like, I'm going to need to call... Well, I thought I was funny until I met Kathy Griffin, and now I want to call my mother and have her tell me how good I am.
Exactly.
Like, because that's kind of how I thought. I was like, damn, she's just shooting everybody down, and some of these didn't feel totally, like, justified. Like, I was a little put off when she was like, yelling at Katya, like, be gayer, more gay. And I'm just like, all I can do right now is laugh at this if I was Katya and just play
But then
it off.
even that comment felt like it was from a different joke she told.
Yeah, like, I'm like, I don't understand what the problem with this joke is.
And I don't know what's funnier than a gay man comparing another gay man to Danny DeVito. That's pretty fucking funny to me.
I thought it was funny, and it worked, and she didn't change it, and it worked on stage.
And I also feel like Danny DeVito would love that joke.
And I think
and like I said in my review, it sounds like a fucking joke Kathy herself would make, too. That's why I was like, this has to be cut from some other section of their run where Katya says something not as funny, and maybe she wanted something gayer then.
Yes, that whole bit felt like the Frankenstein monster of, like the editing throughout the episode, like a whole bunch of pieces stitched together, and it's all a bit clunky and laboring. Like, that's how it's like, because they've done that kind of scene so many times. I felt like maybe this time, just for those few minutes, they lost their heart a little bit when they were putting that together, because it didn't feel as effective to me as it had in previous seasons, like when they did like the roast of RuPaul in season 5. Like those criticisms with those 3 comics was really actually helpful. So you still got a sense of people who are funny but just needed to do a little work, and people who were clearly going to have a problem.
Yeah, you got a sense of absolutely nothing.
And this, they deliberately didn't give us a sense of anything except everyone is bad, and we obviously knew that wasn't true because someone's going to win.
But it wasn't even that. I felt like, comedy is fucking subjective, so people are going to make up their minds whether or not something is funny to them, regardless of what Kathy Griffin or anybody else tells them is funny or not funny. So I didn't even get that impression from the run-through with Kathy giving them feedback. That's why when you said it felt like they left out a lot, when Ginger Minge at Judging later says, well, Kathy's feedback and critiques actually shaped and changed a lot of our onstage banter. I was like, really? How? When?
I didn't notice. I mean, we didn't hear much of it. That's true, but I did not hear from what we heard and what she said. Anything that we had heard previously was changed all that much. It sounded very much the same.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So I loved that moment when, like, Violet and Miss Fame were writing in the workroom, and then, like, Violet proposes a joke, and Miss Fame was like, that's not really that funny. And she's like, well, maybe you should come up with something if you just think I'm just not being funny. And she's like, well, if you think it's funny, then present it in a comedic way.
See, that right there. That would have been funnier if they just kind of like argued
they could have
like that.
Played off of that. Like, I'm funnier than you. Like, really? Like, not even like that. Just like, if only they could have just written down what they were saying at that moment.
Yeah.
Like, that would have worked. Sometimes that's what you need
2020.
when you're writing. It's like, you just said it. Write it down.
Yeah.
Because you already know out loud it sounds good delivered this way. So that's something you should definitely write down.
I think they were kind of more caught up with trading some
barbs.
Yeah.
Shady barbs.
Yeah, low-key shade to each other to actually step back and be like, that was actually kind of funny. But what they should have done was like mine some comedy from Miss Fame's chicken farm upbringing, because that had me dying.
Like, even the chicken clucks he did, like it was just a close up of his face.
Yes, and
you just
his
hear
mouth
the
wasn't
sound.
moving, and I was like, what is that noise?
Where is it coming? I thought it was somewhere around me, and I'm like, oh my god, he's making the noise. He's making it because he's been around chickens so much. His body even knows how to produce the sounds that chickens make.
It's so fucking funny.
It was the weirdest factoid and I found out about any of the queens. I'm like, wait a minute. This isn't just like you lived on a farm and you liked the chickens. Like, you were hatching them in the incubator in your room.
No, he had some, like, Eliza Thornberry bullshit going on with those chickens.
Did you see the picture of him?
I know.
It's like, slightly rotund teen with a chicken and, like...
with his little, like, In-N-Out uniform on.
I'm just like, whoa, like, is this the same person? Like, I was just, like, completely mind blown, officially. Right? By that, and then he's like, "Oh, this chicken on my arm is one
that was so funny."
And I'm like, I never even realized that was a chicken.
Me neither.
And now it makes so much more disturbing sense.
All of it, and like even just the way he was talking about it was like the most animated I've ever fucking seen him. I was just like, Jesus Christ, we should get you talking about chickens more. And I loved his chicken song.
Oh, the chicken song. That's right. He was singing I'm like, why is he singing this song? What is it? That's when they had to start describing. Then that's when they cut into like, oh, by the way, I have this whole chicken thing.
Oh, God. Well, it totally makes sense now why in the preview videos of Miss Fame's like, my spirit animal is a chicken. I was like, what the
Oh my gosh, and there's like all those clips of her just going on and on and on. I'm like, oh, even at the end of this episode, I was just like, they were talking to her about like, like being, like overcoming fear, whatever they were saying to her. I can't remember exactly what their minor critique of her was, but like RuPaul like hands her a line basically.
Oh, she like
RuPaul's
made a joke
like,
about like giving
I need to get out of my head. I'm just trying to work on getting out of my head. And then RuPaul's like, well, how is your head? And then she's like, so I'm just trying to get out of the thinker. And like this and that. Like everyone starts
like,
laughing.
You just keep, yeah, and like
you just kept talking like
you're funny. You just don't know it.
And like they just started cracking up. Just like then of course Michelle Visage had to fill in like. Haven't had any complaints yet. Oh, yes, thank you. Like... And
then she even made a very chicken-like face.
Something, I was just like, oh my god, she, like, just blew right past that. Like,
but I also love, and again, I just see so many opportunities for, like, she's just so oblivious. Like, that's even comedic in itself. If Violet could have just, like, noticed, like, how spacey and, like, kind of, like, adorably in her, like, head she can be. That would have been super funny, too.
They could have.
And that would have been really easy. Yeah, I know. I just see so much potential with them, and I think they don't give themselves enough credit for actually being as funny as they are.
I know. That's, as RuPaul would say, like, they needed to conquer their saboteur. They need to, like, beat down that part of themselves that's telling them that they can't do this or they're not funny or this is not going to work. Like, no. You need to beat that person down and let the real you come out, because, and I swear, like, we still haven't seen the corset yet, which means that I think Pearl is going to get there in some way. Like, not Pearl, but Pearl may get there. But Violet will definitely, I think, get something out of them. It's, like, almost making me question how far, like, maybe she'll go even further. I feel like Ginger Minj is, like, almost like a solid top 3 pick right now.
I thought it was interesting how Ru defended Violet to the panel as well during judging when they sent the chicks, when they sent all the girls away.
Yeah, like the idea that like she's, she has learned this from the internet.
And that's something you do alone.
From a social experience. She learned it from something that she does by herself. So she really does spend all her time looking at fashion magazines. She said so herself. And, he's like, that is an experience you do by yourself. So obviously she's not accustomed to interacting with other queens and the same way that a lot of the others are who have been performing. But I mean, even when Katya was performing live at the club and she was talking in between the commercial breaks in the show, she was saying that, she's so jealous of Violet because Violet's only 22 and she's got everything. Like, she's got all the qualities you want. Like, she really is funny. She's super talented. She can make amazing outfits, she's got all the skills, and she's only 22. And, they're like, I wasn't anywhere near that good when I was that age. Some of us may not have even started that early, but she's already there at this point. So it's possible she could be that ingenue that makes it much further this season. But I said she couldn't. I said maybe she wasn't the Adore Delano, but she may be the Adore Delano this season instead of, like, the Serena Cha-Cha, which is sort of how it looked at first, but Serena Cha-Cha was so dreadful in her season that, anybody would be better than her. And Violet's making us all eat our words, and they're delicious, so I don't mind.
I always knew there was maybe a little something more from the little preview videos. She had a little twinkle in her eye that you could tell, like, just from that very first fashion runway challenge from the first episode, I was like, girl, everyone watch the fuck out for her. She knows what she's doing, and she can sew. Because usually, the thing that, like, set them apart
was the young girls
could not fucking sew for their lives. And Violet
now they can all sew.
And I don't know, I felt like, and I don't know if you saw this or if it's just me, but even when RuPaul checked on Miss Fame and Violet in the workroom, and she first started talking to Violet a little bit about her background and, like, how she got all this experience if she never really learned it from someone else. And she was telling her about, like, oh, I just did it all on the internet. That's just, I know I'm 22, but I do my reading. I know what the fuck Macbeth is. I'm not the same as Pearl. And you could kind of see, like, some nuggets of respect forming in RuPaul's mind a little bit, because the way that she, like, kind of defended her at panel, I thought it kind of reflected some of the, like, a little bit of respect she was giving her. Like, okay. And so I know that Violet doesn't feel respected, like, in Hatlanta, and I know they don't say that, but that's also why we probably wouldn't be the best of friends if we were really friends in real life. And I know she doesn't get the respect she wants there, but if you got RuPaul's respect, fuck all those other bitches. They're just jealous.
Because,
I mean, that's really kind of what it even kind of comes down to. It's like, it's kind of a tired and true thing to say, but bitches be jealous.
And she's done enough, I think, on this show so far to make anybody
I think
who's a
she's
fan
earned
of
her
it
stripes.
to, like, go see her show. Like, I said it before, if Katya had an opportunity to go see her perform, and I did, and it was hilarious. She actually lip-synced to, like, a Russian pop number that actually made me, like, dance along to it. And anyone who knows me knows I hate to dance.
He does.
I've had a drink or something, and I didn't.
Pretty much. I usually have to... I was gonna say Bill Cosby. I have to give you a special
to
drink.
make me dance. But I didn't have. It was actually like she was legitimately good. It was a really difficult stage to perform on, but I took the opportunity to see her, and I was not disappointed. And I'm hoping that I get that chance with Violet because I hear that she has a lot of other skills that we haven't seen yet. So I feel like just from what she's done so far, she's already like helped herself out a lot. And let's hope that before she's gone, she'll really will get that experience of cohabiting with other people in this culture with her. Like, she can learn to interact and make more friends amongst these people. But I feel, who knows? Maybe we should follow her Twitter more vigorously and see what she's talking about. Because Miss Fame is certainly all over Twitter, and every week when a new episode's out, she's always like congratulating that person on Twitter and like being super nice. So I'm like, I wonder where Violet Chachki's tweets are about these other people. I'll have to make sure to read more carefully her Twitter account to see. Maybe we'll get some more clues as to how long she lasts in this show.
Well, speaking of lasting long in the show, I have to say this is my favorite lip sync for your life, though.
Was it?
So far this season. Well, I love that song. I love Tina Marie, and I love Lover Girl, and I was so and this kind of goes. And we didn't talk about Candy Ho because she's so fucking forgettable.
She was so forgettable,
and she was paired up with Ginger Minj, which obviously she was gonna eat her alive regardless. Like, she's just funnier, has a bigger personality, can do more than just be pretty. No offense, Candy, you're very pretty.
Yeah, but
and I know that you're not the type of person that's gonna just be a cat one day out of the blue. I totally get that, and I respect that you want to stay in your lane because I don't think enough people do. But I think staying in your lane is not doing you any favors. You're not standing out because, as Ginger did point out in either Untucked or in the episode, I forget now, Candy Ho did have funny lines. She just doesn't know how to deliver them, and because of the way that she looks, because she is so pretty, and I think that she takes that kind of seriously. She will always be the Jason Bateman straight man of a comedy duo, no matter what. So I think no matter the challenge and what shape it takes, if it has comedy in it, I don't really know if that's ever going to be her opportunity to shine. So I was happy that her Lip Sync for Your Life started out kind of slow, and then she ended up kind of turning it out, and I was actually kind of impressed.
It was like she woke up.
She hypnotized me.
I was like, okay, it was like, is it really what did start off like kind of low key? Like,
yeah, she was
still
kind of
feeling
like
that like
ambient-y
defeatist vibe that she was giving off during Untucked, which, as we know, like this is like right before the lip sync. We really saw that mindset sort of taking over. And then when she got on stage, it was still there, and then it's like all of a sudden, snap! It was like something in her was like, no. I'm not going to go out like this.
I think it's that fight or flight reaction.
Like, she had that reaction.
And also, maybe she had, like, when you know you're about to lose something and you see all the work that you put into it, you're like, fuck that shit. And you just start, something inside you, like, lights up, and you just start to turn on.
It really happened to her. So, I mean, like I said, I'm not betting Miss Fame's Chicken Farm on Candy Ho continuing this cycle of bottom two, top the next week, bottom two, top the next.
I don't think that she's going to have a Pearl, like, I don't know, Phoenix Rising. Yeah, thank you.
I keep hoping Katya's going to win a freaking challenge.
I don't understand why she hasn't won yet.
Me too. I feel like it's going to get to her at some point.
She won the mini challenge.
She has won a mini challenge here.
She won the mini challenge with Mrs. Kosh Davis, dearly departed. And
she's been cursed with like bad teams.
I think that
the whole time. It's not like, and like you can't really blame her because she's either been picked for a team or she was randomly assigned to a team, and it's those teams haven't worked out. Like she's been like the one who didn't mess up on most of the teams except for that one time.
The first time
when she was the one who messed up, and since then she hasn't. But ever since then she's been on bad.
She's
teams.
Been cursed.
It's all because of McBitch. That curse has not stopped.
That's true. That curse has not been lifted from that play. Everybody from that play has had some sort of dramatic arc
Jasmine
since
went
then.
home.
Jasmine went home because of that episode. Then, well, luckily Kennedy was on the bottom too. Then she like rose up, but then it was Pearl's turn to fall to the bottom, and then she rose up. And now Candy Ho for a second time.
Second time.
In the bottom two,
she was
having
in the
to lip
bottom
sync.
in the first episode.
Right. There we go. It's like, when was her? See, that's how fucking forgettable she can be.
I just don't see her lasting. I don't know how much longer she's going to last, but it's still kind of a crime that she's still there and Trixie Mattel is not. Still butthurt about that one.
Me too. That one still. I saw some meme on the internet that was like, "Justice for Trixie." I was like, "Fuck yeah!" I'll sign that petition.
I loved that little video she posted on Twitter. She was like, I'm fine, everybody. Like, I know I'm trained in musical theater and comedy, and I went home in a musical theater comedy challenge, but I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Like, it was like, oh man, you should have done all this shit on the show. You'd still be here. I want to see more of you. But she'll also be performing in a city near me very soon, so I'm going to take that opportunity to see what she does, and also to see if what Katya said in her live performance is true, that Trixie has a massive penis.
Oh, I thought it was in a... Is that just... That's not shady.
No, it's not shady. She just said
it's a compliment.
She said it was enormous, that she just got like a peek at it, but she's like, oh, I would totally do her. I was like, well, now I got to see it, so let's see what Trixie does. A couple seasons ago, it was Alaska with supposedly the legendary horse dick, and now
Alaska's name is Alaska Thunderfuck.
And I don't know how you work with that with Trixie Mattel, but apparently she's got something
that
Ken dolls never had.
I was going to say, I was like, it's weird, because usually when you think Mattel, you think lack of genitals.
Lack of genitals, but he's making up for that all just with his schlong, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever find out if that's true, just like we'll never know if it's true of Alaska, because we've never seen it, and probably won't. But, you know, you can always dream.
Sadly enough, that reminds me of the Blondie song that Trixie went home to last week. Look at what you did!
I'm sorry. It wasn't my fault. If I could have bought you RuPaul's vote in your favor, I would have. But that's not possible. I'm terribly sorry.
I guess all we can do now is just hope that she's a queen that they bring back for one reason or another.
Who knows if they'll do it again this season. They may or may not. But last season, they did keep Ben de la Creme. Actually, that was a moment where, like, she didn't win the lip sync, but then RuPaul didn't eliminate her. Asked her to stay, so they both stayed.
Huh.
And it wasn't a thing where, like, she was eliminated and then came back. It was like she was just wasn't sent home when she should have been eliminated, according to the rules. But he's like, no, I want to see more. You're going to stay. And then she got eliminated later, lip-syncing against the same person who we knew wasn't going to win this whole show anyway, and didn't. So I was right all along. But who knows how it'll work out, because Trixie's already gone this season. So, I don't know, just keep my fingers crossed that at some point they're going to do that shtick where it's like, Michelle, some people on the judging panel think that I've been too harsh. Well, we'll see. I'm hoping that moment comes and that Trixie comes back. I wasn't terribly disappointed to see Mrs. Kasha Davis go, because I did not see winner in Mrs. Kasha Davis of this show. I didn't see it at all. She's funny and charming, I suppose, but, like, yeah, clearly does not have that. Kind of like when you can tell, like, someone in a horror movie is going to die.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I had the same feeling, like, okay, you're just not, like, the survivor of this whole pileup.
You're a girl with slit throat in parking lot number 3.
Yes. Like, you're going to be gone in the first half hour, or first half season, as it turns out, and that's what happened.
Yeah, you get about, like, 30% of screen time, and then you're just going to die at the end of it.
I should have said that. That was a prediction I guess I should have made more clearly, because I totally thought Ginger Minj was going to be gone by half season. But, no, she's proven she got staying power, so...
Girl ain't going nowhere.
Nowhere. Not for a while, at least, and it'll be a big shock.
Gatorland's gonna have to wait.
That'll be a good day at Gatorland.
Welcome back, Ginger!
Well, I guess the Shady Ladies will be signing off.
I guess we shall be. But until next week.
Until next week, hopefully I'll have my Gatorland vacation prepared. I'm just going to know when Ginger is going to be bringing Pearl there.
Yeah, we really want to tag along. So if anybody's got like the Facebook invite for that, could you share that with me and
Share it with us. You can do it by the GAMbIT Magazine Facebook page. You can listen to this podcast going forward on our YouTube page.
And you can leave a comment. We always, well, actually, we don't always check those. But if Ginger, Minge, and Pearl leave us a comment to go to Gatorland, we will totally start checking our comments more.
Completely. Or if Katya has anything to say, I'll totally be there. But yeah, so you can find us there. Also, of course, on iTunes. We are available on iTunes, as RuPaul would say.
We're just like Ru.
We are just like Ru.
Oh my god, I feel so close to her right now.
And of course, you can follow me on Instagram at Samiracles or on Twitter at Samiraculous. And Margot is also on all of these social media website thingies.
You can just follow me at Twitter at MargSheWrote. Or you can follow the GAMbIT Magazine Twitter as well, at GAMbIT Mag. And they put up a bunch of our reviews all the time because we don't just review Drag Race, even though we wish we could. But they don't produce enough content. I mean, they produce a crap ton, but we go through it pretty quickly. So more, faster.
Maybe they'll bring back Drag You. So we can have some more after the season's over. But for now, it is adieu. Goodbye.
All right, y'all. Until next week. Bye.
Bye.